Coach Sully, Reps and Sweat, Martial Arts and Fitness. This is Matt Chat. So today I wanted to talk about energy management. That's the ability to allocate your energy properly so you can last throughout the whole task, whatever it is that you're doing. Now, in the context of martial arts, that is basically managing your energy so you can last through a round, managing your energy so you can last through a fight, understanding how much energy you have and how much energy it takes to, for example, throw punches, throw kicks, and making sure that you use the right amount of energy so that it lasts you for however long you need it to last you. Now, the first step to managing your energy is proper technique. It's like when you look at a swimmer, you take somebody who doesn't really know how to swim, and it doesn't really matter how good a shape they're in. They can be in tip-top shape, but if they do not understand the proper technique in swimming, they're going to have a hard time swimming laps up and down the pool. But then you take Michael Phelps, who you see him swimming laps, it seems like it's all effortless. And that's because he has top technique. And he knows how to conserve his energy. He's not wasting his energy. He's doing everything in the most economic way that he could possibly be doing it. And that gives him more energy to do it. Now, it does involve, don't get me wrong, it does involve being in good shape. But that's only one part of the equation. The technique is another part of the equation. If you know how to, in the context of throwing punches, throwing kicks, even wrestling, jiu-jitsu, if you know where to spend your energy and you know how to properly do the technique, then you're going to be functioning at the highest level. But the first step is having proper technique. Then the next step is to understand where to use that technique. So for example, if you have an opponent in front of you and their hands are up, I'm not gonna throw full power punches at his gloves knowing that those punches aren't going to do the damage that I wanted to do. I might throw something down to his body lightly to bring his hands down, then put my energy into the punch that I know that's going to land. And that's all about the awareness portion of it, knowing when to spend your energy and knowing when to save your energy. Another thing, especially when you're talking about boxing, kickboxing, because the pace is so high. Oh, and any combat one-on-one sport where it's not just you against you. Part of how you spend your energy is dictated by your opponent. And you don't have the luxury of looking across the ring and saying, hey, you want to take a break? I'll take a break. Let's both take a break. You can't do that. You might be tired and your opponent might not be tired. But you still have to figure out where and how to recharge without putting yourself in danger. And that's the dynamic with kickboxing, boxing, that takes another level of energy management in order to make happen. Because you have that opponent standing in front of you who also dictates the pace of the fight. You can't control that opponent. If that opponent comes at you full blast, you have no choice but to do what you need to do to defend yourself. And the first example that I gave, swimming, you don't really have that dynamic. All you have to do is be in good shape and have good technique, and then you can navigate through the energy management portion by taking care of those two aspects. But with combat sports, you have the other element of an opponent who may or may not be tired coming at you and you having to protect yourself. So there's an extra aspect that you have to navigate through when we're talking about energy management. Now, the way that I like to, obviously the sparring aspect of kickboxing, the sparring aspect of submission grappling, that's a good training method that teaches you how to manage your energy. But particularly when we're talking about kickboxing, I always say that jiu-jitsu is like chess, and kickboxing and boxing is like speed chess. So like with speed chess, you only have a small portion of time for you to make your move. You don't have time to think about it and really contemplate making the right move. You have to make a move quickly. And the same thing goes with boxing and kickboxing. So conserving and managing your energy can be a little bit difficult. But the way that I like to, and this is without a partner, the way that I like to teach or give my students a glimpse of how to manage their energy is I do what I call my high volume rounds. So I don't know if you know it or not, but my classes are, my fitness classes are 3-minute rounds, and I have what I call a 1-minute active rest in between those 3-minute rounds. So for my high volume round, what I do is I have them do some sort of calisthenic, maybe a jumping jack, maybe jumping jacks, maybe burpees, to really, really elevate that heart rate up. And then for the high volume round, what they have to do is they have to continuously hit, punch, kick the bag, taking no longer than 1 second between those punches and kicks. So it's kick, punch, punch, kick, punch, punch, kick. You got to keep it flowing. Now, that is, without a partner, that's the best way that I could come up with in simulating a high intensity round and training the athlete and training the martial artist to be able to move while they are still tired, to be able to catch their breath while they are still tired. So when they're doing that high volume round, you know, they did the calisthenics and beforehand, their heart rate is elevated and they have to continuously punch or kick the bag. The main thing that I'm teaching them is how to punch lightly, how to conserve the force behind those punches and the force behind those kicks, but still keep them coming, still make sure that those hands are up, still make sure that the head is moving, but catching your breath while you're still moving. It's an excellent skill to develop. And I've seen it, you know, with a couple of my students who've had fights, we've tested it, and it's a good way to get ready. It's a good way to teach yourself how to manage your energy. But again, when you have somebody standing in front of you, they're not concerned about you being tired. And you have to understand how to be able to recharge and catch your breath while you're still moving. Again, the bare minimal, the outline, the foundation for everything is going to be being in shape and good technique. When you have that foundation, then it's a matter of how you manage it. I always tell my students, because especially people just stepping on the mats, and we think of punching as this forceful thing. Every punch, especially starting off, it takes, and for some folks, it takes a while for me to kind of get this point across. But folks starting off think that every punch is supposed to be a knockout punch. And I tell folks this all the time. You're probably only throwing, first of all, most of your punches are going to miss. Even at the highest level, the best strikers in the world, the best punchers in the world, the best kickboxers in the world, they're only landing at best 40%. So most of those punches are going to miss. And if you try to throw knockout power, you're going to waste a substantial amount of energy. So you got to know how to hit lightly. You got to know how to let the technique generate the force. You got to know how to let the timing generate the force. But most of those punches are going to miss. So it's important to train for that. If every punch that you're throwing is going to be a knockout punch, you won't even last a round. I don't care what level, how good your technique is, how good a shape you're in, you're not going to last a round if you throw power punches for 3 minutes straight. It's not going to happen. And when you understand that most of those punches are not full power, then you can understand how to manage it. So the way it works, and this is in a kickboxing match, the bell rings, you're testing things out, throwing things here, throwing things there, seeing what lands. Because you're throwing out testers. You're surveying the situation to see where the vulnerabilities are, to see where the openings are, to see where the windows of opportunities appear, to see what kind of situation you can provoke. And then when you have it figured out, you say, okay, wow, every time I throw my jab, his hands go down, which gives me a nice clean opening for this cross. Now that I see that trend, now I can make the proper investment of energy and capitalize off of it. But we gotta understand, we gotta learn how to not put all of our power in every punch and every kick. Until management, energy management. It's like when you're managing a budget, you're figuring out, where am I going to spend? Where's my money going to go furthest? You got to do the same thing with your energy. You throw out testers and see what sticks, what happens, where am I getting a return of investment? And then once you figure out, okay, this is a good investment to make, this is a good risk to take, this is a good chance that I can take, then you capitalize off of it and invest more of your energy. But it's a game of chess. It's not checkers. And it is a science. It's not just brute force. So we gotta understand how to manage our energy. And again, the foundation is being in the best shape that you could possibly be. Making sure your technique is the most economic it can be. Letting the technique, the idea of technique is allocating the task to a larger group of muscles so it doesn't put an uneven strain on one particular muscle. You understand the technique, you get in good shape. Then you understand where you can invest that energy. You should, and I'll leave you guys at this. And it goes back to my high volume round that I was talking about. But you should be able to keep a continual stream of punches and kicks in your opponent's face and on your opponent's body nonstop, and keeping your energy at neutral. If you work on being able to keep a continuous stream of punches in your opponent's face, then you understand energy management. You'll get to the point where you can actually catch your breath while you're throwing those punches. Because when you got somebody standing in front of you trying to punch you in the face, when you get tired, you don't have the luxury of saying, time out, I'm gonna go take a seat and catch my breath. You don't have that luxury. So you have to understand how to manage your energy. All right, folks, hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully that was useful. And hopefully that was informative. I'm Outie, Coach Sully, Reps and Sweat Martial Arts and Fitness. This was Mat Chat.